This week I was praying. I've been all over the place on where I was going to go this week. And I realized some of the biggest battles you and I face, when you look around, I mean, we're fighting Washington. Washington's fighting people. People are fighting the workforce. The workforce is fighting the environment. And it goes on and on and on. But I realized the biggest battle you and I face is this little thing right here between your ears. 3 pounds of matter that no one seems to actually be able to understand totally. That battle of the mind. That battle that we fight all the time, but God says you got a good one. But you ever realize this mind of yours, when you find your way to 2 Corinthians, New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, then find Acts and Romans, and you'll find 1st and 2nd Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, when you guys find your way there, we're going to find there's not one, but this is kind of like a continuation. Paul knows that the mind is a powerful, powerful thing, and that mind dictates what's going to happen in your life. In fact, your mind has so much strength that the power of your mind over matter can actually, you can overcome challenges. Where your mind tells you you're going to do, you're going to be able to do it. Now, guess what your mind battles all the time? That skin suit you're wearing. That's called flesh. Why? Because your flesh wants what the earth has, because this is where your flesh came from. But God put a spirit inside of you that didn't come from this world that puts this thing alive. So they're always at odds with one another. In case you haven't figured it out yet, you figured it out this week. They're always fighting one another. They're always battling. But this mind will allow you to do things you never thought possible. This mind will allow you to conquer things you never thought you were able to conquer. This mind will open up doors that you never thought could be opened. It will even tell your flesh to go further than your flesh wants it to go. Your body, it'll carry it up a mountain, across a desert. It'll take you through any storm, as long as this thing right here gets back in check. It's amazing what you can overcome. 2 Corinthians 10:5. You guys there? My brother Gabe might even have it on the board for you guys, but that's okay. 10:5, I'm going to start in the middle of it. It says, taking every thought, there's a word there, captive, to the obedience of Christ. Taking every thought captive, every thought that comes into your life, every thought that shows up, because guess what you can't control? You can't all the time control thoughts. All of a sudden they just pop in out of nowhere. They're just there. I know there was this kids movie that they liked, and I don't even know what it was about, but it was about like what it's like to live inside your mind. Your mind's going, what was that? Anybody remember that movie? This is kind of coming, see that could pop there for no reason. So you're taking every thought captive, inside out, right? And all of a sudden they drop this little memory in out of nowhere. Like, where did that come from? All of a sudden I'm thinking of my 3rd grade teacher, like, where in the world did that come from? I mean, taking every thought captive, which means we've got to learn how to take these thoughts captive, do something with it, and start replacing it with something that's supposed to be replaced with. Taking every thought captive. Thoughts. They bombard you every day. They're bombarding you right now. Right now you're wondering, is my cell phone off? Did I turn that thing off so Brother Mark doesn't take it away? He always threatens me. In fact, I called Brother Mark the other day when he was speaking. I want to make sure it was off. I said, I'm going to mess with this guy. All of a sudden, he calls me up 2 hours later. Did you call me? I go, yeah, during service. I go, I want to see if your phone was on. I'm devious like that. I'm sorry about that, brother, but your phone was off. It was good. It was good, amen? It says, the first part, we are destroying speculations, every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God. Then it goes into, and we are taking every thought captive, taking all these things captives. The biggest battle we face daily is this thing right here. It is. It's a daily battle. It's a daily struggle. For some more than others. For some we're just kind of happy-go-lucky, and we just kind of continue on. But this thing right here is going to dictate your entire day. It's going to dictate what happens. It's going to just kind of go on. How do you punish thoughts? Think about that. This word actually says punish it. Start at verse 3. So, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. The weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but divinely powerful for the destruction of forces, destroying. How in the world do we destroy thoughts? Think about that. It says, destroy these things when they show up. You can't stop them from showing up, but when they show up, what do you do with them? All kinds of thoughts show up. It depends on how you handle them is the different story. You can, for men, for teenage kids, for whatever you are, does it go in the rotisserie of the mind over and over and over? For women, does the things just start rolling over and over and being seared like a piece of meat on a barbecue, going round and around? Or do we take those thoughts and we start punishing them, getting rid of them? See, bad thoughts can be replaced by good thoughts. I don't know why I'm going here for this, but I know we look at the words of Christ. He talks about, because you're of your, he's talking to the crowd that is serving the devil. He says, you're a liar because you serve the father of liars. Your father's the devil. And you're a thief because you're serving and you're stealing. And I thought about that. And I realized the simplicity of what I'm about to say, it's going to ring true for so many people. If you're a thief and you stop stealing, does that make you not a thief anymore? If you're a liar and you stop lying, does it make you not a liar? What changes, if you're a thief and all of a sudden you become a giver, what changed? What changed? The nature, the heart. So if you're a thief and all of a sudden now you're giving, you're now a giver. If you're a liar and now you speak truth, what are you? You're a truth teller. And you start changing your nature. So the thoughts are the same thing. When you start replacing bad thoughts with pure thoughts, bad thoughts with God's Word, casting them down, lifting God up. That's the secret to start getting your thoughts in control. Does it mean they're not going to stop? No, they're going to keep showing up. They are. They're going to keep going there. 1 Corinthians 2:16. See, Paul knew this was an issue. He not only had one book, but two books to these same people in Corinth. The same people in Corinth. He had to say this twice. So he reminded them once and he dug deeper again. 1 Corinthians 2:16 says this. It says, for who has known the mind of the Lord that he will instruct him? But we have the mind of what? Christ. We have the mind of Christ. If you've got the mind of Christ, what do you guys think you can overcome? Everything that comes against you, you will be able to deal with, conquer, go beyond, rise above, get further than you thought you could because you have that mind of Christ. The mind of Christ is what's going to set the tone in your life, set the tone in your attitude, set the tone in the situation, change the situations that you walk into. See, a Christian isn't supposed to walk into a room and take on the flavor. You know why people love cooking whitefish? They'll take on whatever flavor you spice them with. My wife loves turmeric now. So there's certain things she puts it on, and it tastes just like turmeric, or turmeric, however you want to pronounce it. It takes on the flavor. There's certain fish you can't flavor enough. It's still like catfish. If you grill a catfish, you can't make it taste good. You actually have to deep fry it. You have to sear it in grease to make it. I know I'm making people upset that love catfish, but who eats catfish grilled? You eat it deep fried. Why? Because that's what it makes it, to make it taste good. You got to deep fry that thing. You got to saturate it. You got to get the thing down inside the oils. But we have the mind of Christ. We're supposed to walk into a situation rather than the situation change us. We're supposed to change it. We're called to be a thermostat. You guys know that? Which means when you start walking into that situation, when you get there, you're not supposed to say, ooh, it feels cold in here. No, they're going to say, ooh, it feels godly in here. All of a sudden, they'll feel that shadow, and you shouldn't have to preach the word. You should be able to walk in, and they're just going to know something changed in the atmosphere. Because, why? Because a man of God, a woman of God stepped into the situation. Amazing how that works. So 2 times, Paul had to remind these people that they had an amazing calling on their life, that they had the mind of Christ. Every book has different themes, different letters, but yet Corinth, they need a little extra. You guys, if you don't know anything about Corinth, in that area of Corinth, you got to remember, because it was taken over by, Grecian control. Alexander the Great conquered everybody, wasn't civilized, and he found a way to get in and put the Greek language, Koine Greek, throughout the whole land. All trade was done under that Koine Greek umbrella. You guys with me on this? So everything that was done under that Grecian Empire, per se, that Roman Empire. And so they all spoke Greek, everybody in that area. Now, it's like down here in Texas. I can't go to the flea market and understand. They do business in that, but yet they're operating under an umbrella where everything's American, the English language. So you guys can kind of realize how there's a melting pot that was going on. So Corinth was kind of one of those areas of major trade. You guys with me on this? It was kind of like the New York City of the Middle Eastern area. If it was brought in, it was brought in to sell. If it was to be sold, it was brought there. If it was to be moved out, it went through their hands. You ever realize that, what's New York City known for? Someone just spit it out. Keeping you guys awake today, right? Trade. They're known for the Statue of Liberty. It's known as the Great Melting Pot. It's known for a lot of things. You know what it's not known for? Great churches. You think about that. It's not known as the, oh, I can't wait to go to New York there, the Bible Belt. If you want to get saved, you go to New York. That's where you go get salsa. New York City. You get salsa in New York, right? Well, you do now. New York City. I was just threw that in to see if you're awake still. But you don't go to New York because you're trying to find a relationship with God. You go to New York because you're trying to make your name in the stock market, or you're trying to make a claim to fame, or for whatever reason. That's why you go to New York. It's funny that when I think of Houston, I think of big churches, large churches. I don't think of oil as much as I do the amount of churches, the mega churches in Houston, in certain areas of Dallas, and then all the way up through North Carolina, in certain areas in Colorado. You think of stuff, you associate certain areas, but I certainly don't associate New York with being a holy grounds. And that was Corinth. Corinth had the same thing. And he said, you guys need to get your mind in check, because everything around you is trying to pull you away from what God's plan, God's desire, God's best is for your life. Keeping things in check. I thought this was kind of funny the other day. We were planting a garden. I kind of wondered, what does it have to do with renewing the mind? So we started planting a garden, and I got out there and I said, this ground's pretty hard. So I sprung and I said, you know what? I need to get a rototiller. I need something that's got with teeth that can grind into the dirt. Because this shovel ain't working. This little annual hoe I had just is not working. All the little things I had, a rake wasn't cutting it. I said, I need to get a gasoline-powered rototiller. Something that'll turn, something that's fun, you know. Something that'll, when I get out there, I know that ground is going to turn over. And sure enough, it did. You just put gas and go. Just don't forget the oil. Put the oil, put the gas, and you're ready to rock and roll. You're able to break that ground. And then after you get done breaking that ground, you can start organizing your rows. After you get done organizing your rows, you can start planting. After you get done planting, you start fertilizing. You do all these different things. You know what's amazing? While I was there working the purpose of working that garden, I don't think I had any bad thoughts, any weird thoughts, any strange thoughts. My only thought was, I'm going to turn this ground over because I'm going to feed my family out of this ground. I'm just walking behind this machine as it's making noise, tearing it up. And I just realized the whole time I was in there, as I was going from row to row to piece, the only thing that was on my mind was being able to throw seed in the ground and seeing life grow, fruit grow, something cast forth that's going to take that little piece of dirt and turn into meals. It's amazing when you're busy doing something that God has put in your heart. See, there's a difference between being busy with something God put in your heart and just being busy. Being busy doesn't mean you're working God's purpose. Sometimes being busy, it keeps you out of God's purpose. Sometimes being busy will keep you away from everything God's trying to do in your life to make your life better. See, I've always said it like this: if the devil can't slow you down, he'll speed you up. It's kind of like dollar bills. If you don't name them, where do they go? The termites carry them off. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to Walmart we go. And that's what they do. And time is the same exact way. Time is the same way. If you don't start claiming where you're going to put your day and you start putting purpose back into your steps, the devil will start filling them little things up. He'll keep you busy, but he'll keep you busy in all the wrong ways for your mind to start building up all the wrong stuff. You can stay busy watching 5 hours of TV a day. You realize that? That's why they have marathons now. TV marathons. They'll keep you in front of that thing, making sure that Duracell stays in business. Wearing out them batteries. See, if you work for Duracell, it's not a bad thing. But if you're trying to work out God's purpose and God's plan, it's not going to cut it. Romans 12, 1 and 2, I love this. Romans 12, 1 and 2. I love what Paul was saying here, because They also had the same problem. He's saying, therefore I beseech you, which means he's begging, saying, I beg you, brethren, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living and holy sacrifice, which is your acceptable service of worship. Saying, I beg you to present your bodies in such a way that you can stand before God with open arms. Then it goes on, do not be conformed, you guys with me? But transformed by the renewing of my mind. Not my TV, not the renewing of my job, not the renewing of my spare time, the renewing of my mind. Renewing this thing right up here. Gray matter, 3 pounds of tissue that we really don't fully understand how this thing works. Renewing of this little guy right up there. That's what we need to renew. We need to get this thing. We need to keep this thing in order, keep this thing in check. If keeping this in order is easy, you realize the church would look so perfect. Think about it. If just simply walking through the doors of the church kept this thing 100% in order, there wouldn't be any complaints. There wouldn't be any problems. There wouldn't be any strife. There wouldn't be anything to bicker over, complain over. The color of the wall got changed and I wasn't involved. Some steam cleaned the carpet. I think they paid $30 too much. I'm not going to go back. I remember, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I remember a war breaking out inside a church because they couldn't decide where the children's room was going to go. Well, I think it ought to be on that side. I said, well, I think it ought to go on that side because it makes more sense. The mothers can then walk to the bathrooms with their babies and they don't have to walk through the sanctuary. Yeah, but then we can't watch them leave. What are you going to do, chase them down the parking lot? I'm like, get a life. Get a life. Renew this thing. You need to worry about being inside. Just don't worry about if someone's going to walk out. We're just trying to decide this will work best for them. Get a life. Sometimes we forget that stuff. We forget that what the things that we do and the things we're gathering is all because we get this back in order, we get a life back in order, we get our church back in order, and so on and so forth. Philippians 4. Find your way to Philippians. It's going to be right after Ephesians. Just keep flipping a few pages. You will find it. 4 and 8. Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally. Here we go. Finally. Almost sounds like we're wrapping up. Oh, I'll get moving here pretty quick. 4 and 8. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is good repute, if there is any excellence, and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. Dwell. Anything of praise, dwell on these things. So when the things start bombarding our mind, the easiest way to start casting down thoughts is start dwelling on things that are pure, dwelling on things that are holy. It's kind of like when we had our garden. You know the easiest way to get rid of a weed? You see it growing. You pick it up and you cast it down. Well, guess what's going to happen? More are going to show up, aren't they? But you're going to keep picking them up and you're going to keep throwing them down. And these things are going to try to bombard my garden. And I'm going to go back out there and I'm going to pick them up. But you know what? There's going to be a day. One day my plants are going to be so big I can tell the difference between my tomato plants and my weeds. My cucumbers and my sticker burrs. My zucchini or whatever else we grew and all the other grasses trying to grow up. And eventually all the fruit and all the vegetables are going to overshadow all the different things under there. And guess what? They're not going to have power. Your thoughts. Thoughts always have power when they're not covered by something else to overshadow, to protect, to guide them, to lead them. That's how the things have power over your mind. When you start building up purpose in here, the thoughts that show up, they no longer have the same power. It's amazing how much power it has when you don't have purpose. It's amazing how much power words have if you're not walking in accordance with God's plan. So it led me to I was looking up a few more things. And I started looking up mind and health and idle mind and idleness. And I was amazed that it kept saying over and over, and these weren't even religious sites, that an idle mind is the devil's playground. And so I started reading more and more about all these different things about a mind, how to keep a mind sharp. And I finally stumbled onto an article. I thought it was pretty cool. A guy named, I think he was David Sauter. And he's a neurologist. And he found himself in in a place in Notre Dame where there was all these retired nuns. And so to fit the parameter, they had to be old. You said, well, I'm going to check and see what a sharp mind looks like. So the youngest one was 75, the oldest one was 102. So his target audience was 75 to 102. And he starts to talk to him. He's like, man, these women are sharp. He's like, why are they so sharp? So he starts studying their life. They're reading. They're writing in journals. They're writing letters to different people. They're writing letters to congressmen and senators. And then while they're done with that, they do a little more reading, then they get into puzzles. And everything they're doing was right here. They were enhancing this thing in the right way. And they were sharp. Now, the study went on for other things, but that was the one I stopped on. I was like, wow, it's amazing when you start putting this thing back into purpose and you get this thing into order and you don't leave room for the enemy to start coming in at all the different angles, how sharp you can keep this little thing right up there between your ears. Kind of odd, isn't it? See, we've been designed by God for amazing purpose, for that balanced life. And God knows we need a balanced life, and so does the enemy. So he's trying to get us unbalanced. If he can get you, if you're on one foot, it takes nothing for anybody to push me over. Are you guys with me? So if you're on, it's like you see someone on the unicycles. They're always riding around. They're always kind of wobbling, wiggly, back and forth. And they're easy to push over. You know, you don't want to do that. That'd be mean. But there's no stability. So if you don't have a balanced life, and the enemy knows you have a balanced life, when I say balance, I'm talking about feeding all the things, not just your mind. Your mind's going to be sharper if you're feeding your mind, but also going to take feeding your body, taking care of the body, taking care of all the other stuff that God puts into your life. It takes all of this. I think of 3:19 in Genesis. Now, they didn't have a problem. When Jesus was walking around, you ever notice he didn't promote Pilates in Zoom? You know why? Because it walked everywhere. They didn't have to. He had the Batamobile. I think that means feet, right? That means feet. I'm doing good. Look at that. Look at all the Spanish I'm learning. They walked everywhere. He didn't have to say, guys, take care of your body. They walked all over the place. See, they were still in the days where by the sweat of your brow you'll live. They didn't have the same health problems we do. They just did it. They dug in. I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick because I realize time's moving on. But we're busy, busy people. And we certainly have a lot of time for our mind to run rampant. Lots of time. Lots of time. I want to go to Luke. This is where I'm going to end. I'm going to end in Luke. Because I want us to realize that being godly, you can sometimes get led astray. The best people, the most godly people, can get led astray. Matthew, Mark, Luke, third book in the New Testament. Luke 9. And I'm going to try to paraphrase some of this. Julie, can I get you on the piano? Luke chapter 9. This will only take a couple minutes and I'll be done with this. Luke 9 were the closest people that walked with Jesus. The closest. You can't get any closer than when Jesus is over here and his head's curled up on a nice soft rock and you're over here. That's what it costs to, when you wanted to follow Jesus, your pillow might have been a rock or a tree stump. Turn it down just a little bit. Your tree stump might have been your pillow. And these men, as they're walking through, they see the miracles. They've seen 5,000 people healed. 5,000. They're fed up on a mountainside. Their spirit, their life, everything changed about their life. Everything. And the first time they came to a problem, they said, we got a problem. Jesus, you need to feed them. You need to feed them. They're hungry. Send them away. He says, no, we're not going to send them away. You're going to feed them. With what? He said, figure it out. You feed them. Us, we only have a few bucks. They finally shanghaied a kid into giving away his fish and bread. I don't think they had to shanghai too hard. He believed God for what he was. He believed God for what he was. They saw that, and they saw that miracle. And the things they saw were all locked right up in here. Right there. And then all of a sudden, they're with Jesus at one other time, and They look up on the Mount of Transfiguration, and somehow in their mind they thought, hey, it's a great idea. We see him with Moses and Elijah. Let's make some altars for them guys. Hey, we're going to make some altars for all y'all. And then they hear the words from heaven. What told you to do that? That's my son. Worship him. Don't put up any other altars. And they're like, oops, we kind of missed it. We just saw the miracle of feedings, then we saw that. Then they kind of walk along. They have a little test of greatness. Who's going to be the best in your kingdom? Who's going to be sitting beside you? And finally it comes to that point. They went to some man who didn't want to receive Jesus. They say, Jesus, now we got it. We got this thing in control now. You've given us the authority. Let's cast fire down on this guy because he refused to serve you. And Jesus is like, haven't you learned anything yet? It's about love. We got to love these people. We got to love these people right where they are. We got to find them where they are and build them back up. And start transforming their lives, or their lives are going to always be led astray. Always led astray. And they missed it. When they finally, you start seeing a shift in their life, is when they were sent out in the very next chapter. With purpose. With purpose. It's not about showing up on a Sunday morning to get this transformed. It's about when you leave. It says the 70 came back with joy. It's about when you leave and you start doing the things God has purposed in your heart. When you start doing the things God has put inside of here, then they came back with testimony after testimony after testimony. And that's when the words that are spoken into our life have less power, when they start having less authority. When we began, we started saying, casting down everything that's rised up against our mind. And that's what I'm believing inside this building today. Is that when we walk outside these doors, we don't just walk out and start casting down thoughts that aren't good and aren't pure and holy. But as we cast them down and start filling them up with purpose, with God's plan, with God's best, with God's better part that He has for our life. But the first thing it takes having Jesus. It takes having His Son. It takes having His Son, like when those disciples went out and says, this man doesn't love you. We don't want to cast those people down because they say they don't love Him. We need to raise them up and start helping them replace them thoughts they're hearing with thoughts that are from God, thoughts from His Word, thoughts from His ways. Let's all stand to our feet today.